Most people think the lottery is designed to make you lose. And most of the time, it is. Millions of people spend their lives chasing impossible odds, hoping luck changes everything overnight. The system feeds on desperation, fantasy, and mathematical ignorance. But then something unbelievable happened. An ordinary retired couple discovered a loophole hidden inside the system itself and legally turned the lottery into a money-printing machine. No hacking, no fraud, no cheating, just math. And that's what makes Marge Go Large so fascinating. On the surface, it feels like a wholesome comedy about a nice old couple winning the lottery. But underneath, the movie is really about something much bigger. It's about how systems quietly depend on the assumption that most people will never stop to understand the rules deeply enough to beat them. Welcome to Beyond the Scene, where movies reveal the hidden systems controlling real life. Doesn't look like a genius rebel against financial systems. He looks ordinary, retired, calm, small-town simple, and that's part of what makes the story so powerful. Because society trains people to associate intelligence with flashy success, elite universities, or billionaire lifestyles, but real intelligence often looks quiet, observant, patient. Its greatest advantage wasn't ambition, it was curiosity. After retiring, notices something strange about a state lottery game called Windfall. Most people saw colorful tickets and random luck, saw numbers, probabilities, patterns, and then he realizes something almost unbelievable. Under specific conditions, the lottery becomes mathematically profitable. Not lucky. Profitable. That changes everything. Because lotteries are normally designed with a negative expected value, meaning over time the average player loses money mathematically. That's how the system survives. But Windfall had a feature called, if nobody won the jackpot after it reached a certain amount, the extra prize money would redistribute downward into smaller prizes. And realizes that during these periods, buying huge amounts of tickets could statistically guarantee profit over time. Think about how insane that is. The system accidentally created a moment where math overpowered luck. And here's the fascinating part. The loophole wasn't hidden through secrecy. The rules were public. Anybody could figure it out. But almost nobody did because most people never looked deeply enough at the systems controlling them. That's one of the biggest hidden themes in the movie. Society runs on the assumption that most people will remain passive participants instead of active analyzers. Breaks that pattern. While everyone else treated the lottery emotionally, he approached it logically. That difference changed his entire life. And honestly, this idea applies far beyond gambling. Most systems contain weaknesses, inefficiencies, or opportunities invisible to the average person because average people rarely slow down enough to study the structure itself. They interact with systems emotionally instead of strategically. They follow habits instead of understanding mechanisms. That's why the movie becomes surprisingly philosophical underneath the comedy. Isn't beating the lottery through magic. He's beating it through understanding. And understanding is dangerous because systems become easier to challenge once people stop accepting them blindly. The movie also quietly exposes how modern society misunderstands intelligence completely. People often assume intelligence means complexity, complicated language, technical jargon, fancy appearances, but brilliance comes from simplicity, observation, patience, pattern recognition. He notices what others ignore because he pays attention differently. And that may be one of the most important skills in the modern world. Attention. Because most people are mentally overloaded constantly, distracted, entertained, rushed. They consume information endlessly without analyzing it deeply. But people who pause long enough to understand systems often discover opportunities invisible to everyone else. That's exactly what does. And once he realizes the loophole works, he and his wife Marge begin buying massive numbers of lottery tickets during periods. Not recklessly, systematically, carefully. They turn gambling into statistical strategy. And slowly, ordinary retirees start generating enormous profits from a system designed to extract money from ordinary people. That reversal is what makes the story feel so satisfying psychologically. Because usually systems beat individuals. Here, individuals beat the system. Legally. And the movie makes another brilliant point through Marge and its relationship. Most stories about money eventually become stories about greed, but in Marge Go Large feels different because the couple never transforms into ruthless wealth addicts. They stay grounded, generous, human. They help their community, support local businesses, improve the lives of people around them. That contrast matters. Because the movie quietly asks an uncomfortable question. What happens when ordinary good people gain access to leverage normally controlled by larger institutions? The answer feels surprisingly hopeful. Unlike corporations maximizing profit endlessly, and Marge still value relationships, community, and meaning beyond money. And that creates one of the movie's hidden emotional messages. Wealth itself doesn't automatically corrupt people. Often it simply amplifies who they already were. Was curious before money. Marge was kind before money. The winnings just expanded their influence. And honestly, that's true in real life too. Money usually reveals character more than it creates character. The deeper issue is that many systems reward greed so aggressively that greedy personalities often rise faster inside them. That's why and Marge feel refreshing. They beat the system without becoming monsters inside it. The film also exposes another fascinating truth about institutions. Systems often appear invincible until somebody studies them closely enough. Then suddenly the illusion cracks. The lottery looked untouchable because people assumed complexity meant superiority. But complexity often hides human error. And every human-designed system contains flaws somewhere because humans themselves are imperfect. Well, banks, markets, algorithms, governments, corporations. Every structure has weaknesses. Most people simply never look for them. And that's what separates strategic thinkers from passive participants. Strategic thinkers ask different questions. Instead of asking, how do I survive inside this system? They ask, how does this system actually work? That shift changes everything. Once you understand incentives, probabilities, psychology, and structure, the world starts looking completely different. That's why it becomes dangerous to the lottery organization itself. Not because he cheated, because he understood the game better than the people running it expected anyone to. And systems hate being understood too clearly. Because understanding reduces control. The movie also subtly critiques the psychology of gambling itself. Most lottery players operate emotionally. Hope drives them. Fantasy drives them. The dream of escape drives them, removes emotion entirely and replaces it with calculation. That emotional detachment is exactly what allows him to succeed. And that idea applies to life more broadly than most people realize. Emotion often clouds decision-making inside systems specifically designed to exploit emotion. Fear drives markets, hope drives gambling, status drives spending, impulse drives consumption. Modern economies constantly profit from emotionally reactive behavior. People who stay calm enough to think strategically gain enormous advantages. That's another hidden reason wins. He doesn't chase excitement. He follows maths. The movie also highlights something deeply important about aging that society often ignores. And Marge's greatest chapter begins after retirement age. In a culture obsessed with youth, the story quietly reminds viewers that wisdom compounds too, experience compounds, pattern recognition compounds. Older people often see systems more clearly because they've spent decades watching cycles repeat. And honestly, that message feels rare today. Most modern stories glorify speed, disruption, youth, hustle, and Marge Go Large instead celebrates patience, stability, partnership, and quiet intelligence. It suggests that extraordinary outcomes don't always require extraordinary personalities. Sometimes they simply require paying closer attention than everybody else. By the end of the movie, you realize the real fantasy isn't winning the lottery. It's understanding the game deeply enough to stop depending on luck entirely. That's the deeper psychological payoff. Didn't become powerful because he gambled harder than everyone else. He became powerful because he stopped thinking like a gambler. And maybe that's the biggest lesson hidden inside the story. Most people spend their lives hopping systems, reward them eventually. Very few stop to study the system itself. Because once you understand the rules deeply enough, sometimes you realize the game was never as unbeatable as it looked. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Beyond the Scene, because the best movies aren't just entertainment. They reveal the hidden logic underneath the world we live in.